And now we're going to hear from, it's an honor to have Corina Gould with us to ground us and start our day. Corina Gould from the Confederated villages of Lisjan and Ohlone, born and raised in our neighboring Oakland, the co-founder of Indian People Organizing for Change. Corina works hard, very hard, preserving and protecting the ancient burial grounds of her ancestors in the Bay Area, and she is currently the co-founder of Native women-led Sagor Land Trust. It's my honor to introduce Corina Gould. Thank you.
Horshe tuhi ka'at lashanka ka'at ra'at Corina. Oh, quietly. I said, good day. My name is Corina Gould. I am the spokesperson for the Confederated villages of Lisjan. Many people know as Ohlone, and many of you probably grew up thinking that we didn't exist anymore. Just like many people are growing up thinking that climate change doesn't exist at all. One of the things that we do as indigenous people on our territories is to acknowledge people that bring us to the table with them. And that's something that's only started to happen recently, and I'm proud to say that in the Bay Area I've been working really closely with the city of Berkeley for the last 2.5 years to preserve and protect the oldest village site and burial site of my ancestors, the West Berkeley Shell Mound. One of the things that happened a long time ago was that people, when they came to other people's territories, they asked permission to come here. And we forget that as human beings, to do those very simple things by asking permission to come onto somebody else's land. So one of the things that we do as the beginning of many of these things is to do a protocol. And protocol is a way of doing that, of acknowledging not just that we are here together in this room, but that those leaders that are coming here in a good way. So a long time ago, my ancestors had these different territories, and we are sitting in what is called Huichin. And Huichin is a territory that encompasses Oakland, Alameda, Berkeley, Emeryville, and Albany. So it's not just a little tiny village site, but it actually encompasses a large piece of land. And when people would come to our territory, they would stop at the edge of our territory and they would light a fire that would send up smoke, and they would wait until someone came to get them and invite them to the large village. And while they were coming to the village, people would be there, gathered together, getting food and gifts together. And when that person would come, or those people would come to the village, they would be feasted with food and gifts and games and good talk and laughter. And after all of that, then they would be asked, what is it that you need? Why are you come to our territory? And they may come because they wanted to just share some stories, or to bring a message, or to cross the territory for medicine, or to go hunting. But all of those things stopped suddenly. What we are facing right now has happened in a very short amount of time. I'll go into that in a second. What we're going to do today is we're going to ask these leaders that have brought us here to come forward and to accept a gift on behalf of the work that they're doing from our tribe. And this medicine is sage. It's white sage that was grown in our territory, that was dried here, and that we help to center ourselves in the work that we're doing. When we're feeling a little uneasy, when we're feeling like we need some clarity, we burn this medicine to help us to do those things. And so I want to offer this medicine to my fellow panelists today before we start this great talk. We look at the state of California, and it started here in 1850. Our people knew it before it was even a state, before Berkeley was even in existence. So we're looking at less than 200 years ago. When you look around where you live and you look around this space right now, you look at the streets and BARTs and the airports, none of this existed less than 200 years ago. We're not talking about the 525 plus years ago that people came to the other side of the country. We're talking about here in the state of California, what has changed drastically in less than 200 years. We're here today because we all came from the same mindset of trying to hold back the climate destruction. We cannot stop it now. Today is not a time where we can sit on a fence and decide yes or no. Hard decisions have to be made. My sister Cheryl brought up our brothers and sisters in the Pacific. We hold on to those folks because we, the California Native people on this side, also share the Pacific Ocean. Our sisters and brothers are facing devastation in the hurricanes, just like our sisters and brothers in Texas dealt with the hurricanes, and those in Florida and on the East Coast. The flooding that's happening right now is unprecedented. But then we also have the fire that's happening right now. These fires that 200 years ago would not have gone crazy like they are now, because indigenous people had this ecological knowledge to know that fire burning was safe, that it needed to happen, that underbrush needed to go away, and it would bring back a better, healthier environment for not just the humans, but for the animals that lived on that land as well. We have gotten away from that because we have thrown away indigenous ecological knowledge. Native people are not brought to the tables to talk about ecology and about climate disaster and about keeping things in the ground. One of the things that I learned as a young person going to ceremony was that human beings are something different. When we look at the world, everything on this earth has a purpose. And everything can survive on this land and this water without us. Human beings depend upon everything to be here, but nothing depends upon us to survive. Now, I want you to think about that while we're going through this today. Human beings are not necessary for this earth to survive. Everything else would thrive without us here. So when we are doing the work about trying to save this planet, we have to think about that and take that into consideration. Human beings have gotten away from being a part of the earth. We think that we're outside of everything else, that we are above the environment, that we are more capable. And actually, when we look at our capabilities, what we're capable of is destruction. We have come this far and know that my grandchildren and your grandchildren are going to have to hold the load for all of the things that we thought were going forward. When we talk about changing things, we're talking about drastically changing things. The plastics that we use are ending up in our bodies because it's ending up in our oceans, and we're eating the animals that are ingesting it. We don't talk about Fukushima, but do you think that that radiation stayed there and didn't move through the Pacific? Do you think that the rain that we get now isn't affected by what happened there? We need to really think drastically outside of the box. We're thinking about pulling back these carbon emissions back to the year 2000. We need to really be thinking about bringing back those carbon emissions back to 1850 and before. I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other night, and we were talking about how weird it was when 9/11 happened and how quiet the skies were. Do we remember that? When all the planes could not fly. And it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence that our ancestors heard. It's the silence we need. So that means that we're going to have to figure out how to work as human beings without flying across the sky all the time. We're going to have to figure out how to save those people that are working on the pipelines from themselves. We're going to have to stand up with those that are in Louisiana stopping the pipeline right now from going through. We're going to have to stand up and make sure that those that are standing up against the tar sands are supported. We're going to have to stand up for those indigenous people that are in the Amazon fighting large corporations to stay out of their forests. We're going to have to stop our people that are on the front lines from being killed by corporations and dirty governments. We are going to have to stand up to a lot of things that we are probably not thinking about today. So getting rid of our straws and getting metal straws is a good thing. But we really need to go to the root cause of what's happening here. Corporations being human beings and having the same rights as us is not good. We need to give personhood to waters. We need to give personhoods to mountains. We need to stand up in a spiritual way and ask forgiveness and to put away our egos to this earth that we were given to take care of. Our indigenous lifeways tell us that we have original teachings and how we are supposed to be in our lands. Part of the reason that I stand up for the protection of sacred sites in our territory, which, by the way, is all 9 Bay Area counties, is because we had special instructions about prayers and ceremonies that were supposed to happen at those particular places. Those prayers and ceremonies not only help the Ohlone people, they help everyone that lives in our territory. It's all connected. We need to stand up against the Delta tunnels. There's a shorter period of time right now for us to actually write public commenting still. And I think that ends on September 3rd. And I encourage you to get that information out to people to write. The Delta tunnels is going to destroy our delta, our waterways, our fish, a very breathing environment that needs to be saved. Our waters do not need to go all the way to Southern California because Southern California, among other states, are sucking the Colorado River dry. We need to pull down dams. We need to restore ecology. And we need to bring back the salmon. And salmon is a beautiful gift to us as human beings. Salmon are a magical fish, and I work with the Winnemem Wintu and Chief Colleen Sisk in making sure that those salmon come home, because those salmon clean our rivers. And if you took a shower, you drank some water today, you know that we need water in order to survive like anything else. And those salmon clean those waterways for us, and they give their bodies to us as food. And they go to that delta, and they change from being freshwater fish to saltwater fish. And when they come home, they change again in our delta. That will cease to exist if we allow this delta to die. We have to stand and be voices not just for ourselves, but for every living thing that is on this earth. That's what our charge is. Our charge is to keep all the oil and stuff in the ground because that is the bloodline of our earth. But I was also taught that at one point, this earth is going to save herself. And at some point, she's going to get so tired of us pesky fleas, she's going to flick us off. I think I want my children to be able to see the beauty of this earth and how it was supposed to be. And I think that we as beautiful human beings are coming together to try to figure these tough things out together right now. I encourage you to bring Native people and voices to the work that you're doing. to bring those ideas of letting go of some of the things that we think we need. I'm not asking us to go back to a place where we were living outside in our tule huts. I like indoor showers and indoor plumbing myself. But I think that we need to figure out a way to make it so we are sustainable in a much smaller place. We need to go back to a village mentality. We need to go back to remembering who our neighbors are. We need to go back to feeding ourselves in a very small area. We need to stop using and exporting goods back and forth across the borders. We need to get rid of pesticides. We need to bring the bees back. We need to be the voices for all of these things. So today, I want to welcome you to our land so that you can begin to work on these things with us and to just plant these ideas in your mind and to remember that we are still among you and we are working with you. Oh.
Thank you, Corina.